Good morning and welcome to the African Television Channel, broadcasting from the Clark Atlanta studio in Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta. Hope deferred make the mind sick. When the desire are met is a tree of life. Was started in 1996 during the Centennial Olympics, Africa Heritage Foundation, branding and putting together the 55 nations of Africa on the globe, and also making the city of Atlanta the epicenter and the destination of all the opportunity of Africa to United States is a tree of life. Of course, the maiden edition of the Africa Solution to Africa Problems was broadcasted right away at the United Nations in New York, May last year. You could see the clip. It's now a tsunami going around the world. Everybody wants to know more, want to hear more about Africa. Of course, Africa matters. Africa is the future. This sticker is gaining ground all over the world. People want this on their cars, they want this on their business, they want it on their home, and also Africa is open for business. This is the trend of the world economy today. This is the antidote that will now turn the human resources and capacity building for sustainable development, both in America and in Africa together. This is actually the Young Africa Initiative, Africa Leaders Initiative, launched by the 44th President of America, President Barack Obama, is gaining ground. Of course, Clark Atlanta University has been the venue. But the summit this year, with all the reception, the paraphernalia, and all the excitement that took place at the White House, is an event for posterity. This is where the economy of the world is going. We thank you, President Barack Obama, for this initiative that you have launched for posterity that will now take us to the zenith of our calling. Enjoy it.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Well, this is a good crowd here. First of all, can everybody please give Grace another big round of applause? You know, not only does she do incredibly inspiring work in Nigeria, but I have to say, following Grace is a little bit like following Michelle. You know, she's so good that you kind of feel bad when you're walking out, because you're thinking, I'm not going to be that good. But she's just one example of the incredible talent that's in this room. And to all of you, I know that you've been here in the United States for just a few weeks, but let me say, on behalf of the American people, welcome to the United States. We are thrilled to have you here. And your visit comes at a perfect time. Because yes, it's soon my birthday, and that's a very important thing. But that's not the main reason it's a perfect time. The main reason is because, as many of you know, I just returned from Africa. And it was my 4th trip to sub-Saharan Africa, more than any other U.S. president, and I was proud to be the first U.S. president to visit Kenya, the first to visit Ethiopia, the first to address the African Union, which was a great honor. And the reason I've devoted so much energy to our work with the continent is, as I said last week, even as Africa continues to confront many challenges, Africa is on the move. It's one of the fastest growing regions in the world. Africa's middle class is projected to grow to more than 1 billion consumers, with hundreds of millions of mobile phones and surging access to the internet. Africans are beginning to leapfrog old technologies into new prosperity. The continent has achieved historic gains in health, from fighting HIV/AIDS to making childbirth safer for women and babies. Millions have been lifted from extreme poverty. So this is extraordinary progress. And young people, like you, are driving so much of this progress. Because Africa is the youngest continent. I saw the power of youth on my trip in Kenya. Richard Ruto Torosia helped build Yes Youth Can, one of the country's most prominent civil society groups with over 1 million members. At the Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Nairobi, Shadi Sabe spoke about how he started Brilliant Footsteps Academy in Nigeria, which uses education to fight religious extremism and provide more opportunities for young Muslim youth. I met Judith Owiger, an entrepreneur who co-founded a nonprofit that trains young women living in the slums of Nairobi in computer programming and graphic design, and then helps place them in tech jobs. So I saw the talent of young people all across the continent. And as president, I want to make sure that even as we're working with governments, we're also helping to empower young Africans like all of you. And that's why I launched YALI, the Young African Leaders Initiative, to help you access the resources and the training and the networks that you need to become the next generation of leaders in all areas, in civil society, in business, in government. And the response has been overwhelming. So far, more than 140,000 young people across Africa have joined our YALI network. So young Africans with new ideas can connect with each other and collaborate and work together to put their plans into action. And I want to welcome all of the YALI network members across Africa who are watching this town hall today. I'm proud of all of you. I'm proud that we've made so much progress together after just a few years. And last year I said we'd launch a new set of tools for our YALI network. So today we've got more than 30 online lessons available on everything from public speaking to how to write a business plan, mentoring, new ways to network across Africa, around the world, new training sessions, meetings with experts on how to launch a startup. And we're launching 3 new online Mandela Fellow Washington Fellowship Institute courses so that all members of the YALI network can access some of the great ideas that you've been sharing. Last year I said that we would create YALI regional leadership centers across Africa to provide skills, networks, and opportunities to even more young African leaders. And in Kenya, I had a chance to visit the Regional Leadership Center in Nairobi. Just this morning, we opened a new center in Accra. And 2 more will be opened by the end of the year in Pretoria and in Dakar. Last year, I said we would do even more to support young entrepreneurs with grants to help you start a business or nonprofit, and with new training for thousands of aspiring entrepreneurs in small towns and rural areas. So at the recent Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Nairobi, I announced that we've secured more than $1 billion in new commitments from banks and philanthropists to support emerging entrepreneurs around the world, including in Africa, with half the money going to support women and young people. And last year, I welcomed our first class of Mandela Fellows. This year, the response was overwhelming again. Nearly 30,000 applied. And today, I'm honored to welcome you, the second Mandela Washington Fellows class. We're on track to double the Mandela Washington Fellowship program to 1,000 fellows by next year. And I know you've been busy. Over the past few weeks at schools and businesses all across America, you've been taking courses, developing the skills you'll need to make your ideas a reality, so that you're able to continue the great work that you're already doing, but take it to the next level. That's what Brian Wembia of Zambia plans to do. Where's Brian? Where is he? There he is, right there. So Brian uses music to advocate against things like gender-based violence and to educate youth on HIV/AIDS. So while in the U.S., he's learned about our healthcare system, met the founder of an American HIV/AIDS organization, and now he plans to start a record label for music about social change. So, Brian, we're proud to be your partner. Or we've got Khadija Diallo of Guinea. Where's Khadija? There she is. So Khadija helped lead UNICEF's media campaign to stop the spread of Ebola. And with the management skills that she gained at Wagner College, she wants to work on improving the lives of women and girls back home in Guinea. So we are proud to be your partner. Or we've got Jamila Mianja of Uganda. Are you posing? She is posing. Jamila is not a fashion model. That's not. She started a door-to-door laundry company to employ more youth and teach them entrepreneurial skills, and she hopes to take what she learned during her time at Dartmouth University to meet her goal of getting 1,000 youth to work in or run their own business. So we're proud to be your partner today. So that's just a sampling of the incredible projects that are being done by fellows all across Africa. So this program is going to help all of you make a real difference back home. But Fatou Baendour from Senegal, where's Fatou? So Fatou wrote me a letter, and she said, if the real value of YALI is for young people to learn from others, then maybe we should start sending some young Americans to Africa also. You know, and she made the point, not just to help poor communities as they usually do, but to learn from other societies with humility, and which I thought is absolutely true. So I have good news, Fatou. From now on, YALI will give Americans an opportunity next summer. Up to 80 young American leaders will join. Up to 80 young American leaders will join YALI and go to Africa to learn from you and your countries. And you guys are going to have to look after them when they're there. Like, you know, show them good places, but not have too much fun. They need to be doing some work while they're there. So these connections and partnerships and friendships, they forge an understanding that brings our peoples closer together. After 6 weeks here, some of you are now officially Texas Longhorns or Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Oh, look at You've shared African cooking with your American friends, but you've also had a burger and a hot dog at 4th of July celebrations. I'm told many of you went bowling for the first time. I hear it didn't go that well. There were a few strikes. By the way, there was at least one marriage that came out of last year's class. So who knows what might happen here. So as your time in America comes to a close, I want you to remember this is really just the beginning. We just started this. And the truth is that our greatest challenges, whether it's inclusive development or confronting terrorism, dealing with conflict, climate change, increasing women's rights, children's rights, these are bigger than any one nation or even one continent. Our hope is that 10, 15, 20 years from now, when you've all gone on to be ministers in government or leaders in business or pioneers of social change, that you'll still be connecting with each other, that you'll still be learning from each other, and that together you'll be reaching back and helping the next generation, that you'll not only be making a difference in your own countries, but you'll be the foundation of a new generation of global leadership, a generation that's going to be working together across borders to make the world safer and more prosperous and more peaceful and more just. That's my hope for you. We've brought you here because we benefit from your leadership, but we're counting on you to work together to make sure that you're also reaching back to those who are going to be coming behind you. Couldn't be prouder of you. So with that, let me take some questions. All right? Thank you very much. All right, so here, I think you've been told how this works, but I'm going to just repeat it. I'm just going to call on as many people as possible. When I call on you, introduce yourself. Tell me what country you're from. Make your question relatively short so that we can get as many questions in as possible. And I'm going to go boy, girl, to make sure that it's fair. All right? Okay, so let me see who I'm going to start off with. This is such a good-looking group. I'm going to start with this young lady right here, right in the middle. Yeah, there you go. With the African earrings. Very appropriate.
My name is Faith Chege. I'm from Kenya.
Habari.
I'm Zuri Sana.
Okay.
Yes. And my question is, I'm curious how you keep the balance in terms of your background as an African American and the kind of struggles you've had to get over to get here, and being married to Michelle Obama. She's powerful and amazing. And as a father, as a husband, but you seem to not let that interfere with your work and you being effective. So how do you keep the balance?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be who I was without Michelle. So she's my partner, and that's true professionally, but that's true in terms of my character and who I am. One of the things I'm very proud of is the fact that that I married someone who is strong and talented and opinionated and my equal. And part of the reason why that's so important to me is because she's the role model now for my daughters. And so Malia and Sasha, they have expectations of being strong and talented and being treated as an equal by their partners as they get older, much older. You know, the balance, I've written about this, the balance isn't always perfect. I think one of the things that my generation, but now even more your generation, has to manage is if you have two people working in the house outside the home, how do you manage that in a way that we're both good parents, we're both able to succeed in our work? And what Michelle and I found was that we had to recognize that at any given point in our careers, one person might sacrifice a little bit. Maybe this was time that she really had to focus on something, and so I had to cover for her more. There were times where I was able to do something and she had to handle things more. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's been completely equal, because I'm the first one to acknowledge that she's probably made more sacrifices given the nature of a political career than I have. But what I've learned from her is that if she doesn't feel respected and fulfilled, then I'm going to end up being less successful ultimately. And that's something that I think that men in Africa in particular, but men everywhere, but men in Africa, I've spoken about this a lot. The best measure of how a country does economically in terms of development is how does it treat its women. And as I said in a speech, a couple of the speeches that I gave while I was in Kenya and Ethiopia, if you're mistreating your women, then you're just holding yourself back. You're holding yourself down. You may have some false sense of importance, but ultimately, you don't benefit if women are being discriminated against, because that means when they're working, your family is going to have less income. If they're not educated, that means your children are less likely to be well educated, because typically the mother is the first educator of a child. So if they see you disrespecting your wife, then what lesson is not just your girls, but what lesson are your sons learning from you? So this is something that I really think everybody, especially the young generation of African men, have to learn and internalize. And I want to see more men creating peer pressure among themselves. If you see a friend of yours, a classmate, one of your buddies, abusing a woman, you have to say something. You have to ostracize them and say that's not acceptable. Because ultimately, this is not just an issue of laws, although here in the United States, we're still fighting for equal pay for equal work. We're still fighting to make sure that women have the same opportunities as men. But it's also a matter of culture and what our expectations are. And your generation is going to have to change expectations. You do not lift yourself up by holding somebody else down. And that's especially true within your own family and the people that you're closest to. All right? So, all right. That young man right there in the striped shirt. Yeah, you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Andre Imanshimwe from Rwanda.
You have a little cheering section here. Got the flags.
Mr. President, there is a big problem of climate change, and research has shown that Africa will be the most vulnerable continent to climate change in the next decades. Africa is the continent which is responsible to climate change mitigation, and it is reducing the greenhouse gases and the global warming. And I saw that Africa was the last continent to get the funding for climate change mitigation and adaptation. So my question is to ask you, what is the plan of the United States of America to empower Africa so that our community can adapt themselves to the climate change in the next future? Thank you.
Well, first of all, this generation has to understand that climate change is going to be one of the critical issues that you face. Now, oftentimes you'll hear people say, well, environmental issues, climate change, we don't have time to worry about that right now because we have much more urgent issues. We have to educate our children. We have to feed people. We have to develop. Maybe later we can worry about environmental issues, which I understand why a lot of African countries and, poorer countries in Asia or Latin America or other places would say that, because historically that's basically what the United States and developed countries did. The United States used to be terribly polluted. If you went to Los Angeles, you couldn't, it was like Beijing is now. It was very hard to breathe if you ran outside. You had lakes and rivers that were so polluted that one of them caught fire. That's serious. That's some pollution there. The same is true in London, when London was first developing during the Industrial Revolution, because of all the coal that was being burned and the soot. Here's the problem. Whether it's fair or not, the issue of climate change is not like traditional environmental issues in the sense that it's just isolated in one area. Global climate change will affect everybody. And because the changes could be so severe, frankly, the countries that are most likely to be adversely affected are the poorer countries because they have less margin for error. So if you have changing weather patterns in, let's say, the Indian subcontinent, and the monsoon rains shift, suddenly you could have millions of people whose crops completely fail. Well, the same is true in Africa. If rain patterns and drought starts changing, subsistence farmers are completely vulnerable. If you are in coastal communities and the oceans begin to rise, millions of people could be displaced. So this is something that everybody is going to have to take seriously. Now, what we're going to be doing is, here in the United States, we are initiating some of the most aggressive action to start reducing the emission of carbon that produces climate change. There's going to be a Paris conference later this year in which we're organizing China and other countries that are big carbon emitters to participate and set targets for reduction of carbon pollution.
Viewers, without event, there can never be history. And when history is made, it's certainly for posterity. The Young Africa Initiative, Leaders Initiative have demonstrated what is in them. They have shown the world that they are ready to go to turn their passion to purpose. Thank you, President Barack Obama, for this worthy initiative. We are grateful for you putting the life and the hope for the hopeless. These are the leaders of tomorrow. They've shown it and they are ready. Of course, with what is going on in America today, bridging the gap and building the bridge, and bringing the 55 nations of Africa on the core of reality here in America, the world is going to witness a change in the global economy, a change in day-to-day activity, a change in the emerging marketing opportunity, a change that will now put the unity of the entire world together. This change remains the only constant in life. Growth is a recession. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to now bring initiative for reality and to create what will be a lifelong opportunity for everybody in America, in Africa, and in the global community. Thanks for watching.